No, 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 no. In fact, my career was going here. His career was, and you know, he's 10 years older. He was already in his 40s. He'd closed his architecture practice in Philadelphia because there was a terrible slump, and there were 3 of them. And Richard always, you know, had this kind of monkey mind. He wanted to do conferences, he wanted to do books, he wanted to do this and that. He's a brilliant architect, but he hated having clients because he wanted to do what he wanted to do, know what they wanted them to do. And the pressures of running that, he just couldn't do one thing like that. So they decided to close the practice. So he was lost. I mean, he got a 2 guest professorships in Los Angeles, one at SC and one at UCLA, I think. And he was out there for 3 months doing that. That's when I met him. And he was actually living 2 blocks away from me in Venice in some flop pad. When I saw where he was living, I thought, what are you doing? A mattress on the floor and a little black and white TV with rabbit ears and, you know, some Cheetos or something, you know, and a borrowed car. And he was not, you know, I must have been desperate or crazy. And the first, so, but when Charles Eames, who was a legendary figure, introduced him, I was sitting next to him. We were both very aware of each other, but, you know, I still thought, oh, yeah. Charles Eames said, I'd like to introduce the brilliant, distinguished young architect from Philadelphia, Ricky Werman. Ricky, stand up. And he stood up. I thought, oh, well, I wanted to get to the East Coast badly. And he's an architect. He's not he's not an agent or something. You know, so, and he was that, but he was in a terrible place in his life. He was in the nadir of his life. And he had, you know, we fell in love. It was like as close to love at first sight, I guess, as you could get it. And I remember then I saw him a week later at this going away party. If I hadn't gone to that, I never would have seen him again. He followed me home, and then the next day, my kids were, I guess, with my father or their birth father, and he came over to my apartment. And I remember I made a quiche, which he thought was just amazing. Couldn't believe anybody could make a quiche, right? And he said, you know, I just want to be honest with you. I've just closed my architecture practice. I don't have anything. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm thinking of opening a soup kitchen. And I thought, oh my God, Gloria, you're gonna, you know, I'd been married to one boy wonder that was going to end up as the boy wonder for in a locked room someplace or something. I thought I have 2 little kids. I said soup kitchen. Well, he would have been worse than the soup Nazi because he would have made 2 different kinds of soups, and if you didn't like it, he'd tell you to get out, right? You know. So, no, we have a second marriage that really worked like a first marriage. Because everything that happened to us that led to us sitting here today came after. And the TED conference, it came, when he first did it, I mean, he always did a little conference. He loved that thing. He loved getting interesting people together. The more brilliant, he wasn't intimidated by any of that. And so he had done conferences, you know, in Monterey and whatever. One-off conferences, small ones. And when he got the idea for TED to do it, he did the first one. I don't think he did a TED conference till we'd already moved to New York. I'm trying to remember now. It's, you know, it gets all sort of murky when that actually happened. I mean, he couldn't get an audience. And it was actually, he understood the technology part more, certainly than it was just the Wild West was starting. And the design part, he knew nothing about the entertainment part. And I remember I said to him, because I knew that world, I said, if you want this to be a success and you're doing it in California, you got to get the entertainment people in here. And that's my little contribution. I was right. So the minute he started cultivating that, boom, and showbiz started to see this as a big deal. The whole thing just switched. And we watched this thing turn into this, you know, this unbelievable thing that we never could have conceivably anticipated. So that was much later. And basically he did books, you know, he did the most amazing guidebooks anybody's ever done, the Access Guides. And he did a whole project for the telephone company, the Yellow Pages. He redesigned the entire Yellow Pages, the smart Yellow Pages. I don't even think there are Yellow Pages anymore. They're just all gone. You know, it's a whole way of life that's gone. So, you know, we've had many chapters, you know. My work has always been more singular in that sense, but he has that kind of mind. I'm really sort of, I could do one thing at a time, thank you very much, where he has to do 10 things at a time, which drives me crazy. But I'm able to rein him in and say, I can't listen to that, and that, and that, and that, and do this at the same time.